You drop a small cardboard box onto a counter and walk away. For you, the transaction is over. You've hit the industrial undo button. But for the retailer, that box is now a logistical leak. If you stacked every return from the last year, the pile of dollar bills would reach the moon and wrap around it 3 times. It's a mountain of stuff we just don't want anymore. This is the reverse loop, a massive, high-speed filtration system that quietly moves billions of dollars in unwanted inventory. We rarely think about it until it stops, but right now, it's the only thing keeping the modern warehouse from physically exploding. In the next few minutes, we're going to map out exactly how a mess becomes a business. When that clerk scans your return code, the system isn't really looking at you. It's performing a high-speed triage, sort of like a hospital emergency room. In a fraction of a second, an algorithm decides if your item gets immediate surgery, meaning it's high velocity enough to go right back on a shelf, or if it's considered problematic. If it's problematic, the item stops being a product and starts being volume. It gets diverted away from the clean, organized aisles and dropped into what's known as a gaylord. These are basically massive, heavy-duty fabric bins that act as a black hole for inventory. Inside these bins, the logic of the retail world completely flips. On the front end, everything is pristine and categorized, but in the chaos funnel, a $200 pair of noise-canceling headphones might spend the night sitting directly on top of a 10-pound bag of organic cat food. The system has stopped caring about the individual value of the object because, at this scale, organization is a luxury they can't afford. The goal here isn't to be neat, it's to be dense. We're just trying to fill the cube. Once that bin is topped off, it's shrink-wrapped and moved to the edge of the dock, ready to be scrubbed from the company's books. It's a strange, rainbow-colored mixture of leftovers, and it leads to a very practical problem. Once you've filled a giant bin with random unsorted stuff, how do you actually turn that mess back into money? To solve that, the retailer stops acting like a shopkeeper and starts acting like an auctioneer. They treat the entire mess as a single unit of data. This is where the blind auction comes in, an automated bidding war where the prize isn't an item, but the entire pallet. To make this work, the system generates a manifest. It's a digital spreadsheet that lists the estimated value and quantity of the junk inside. It's the retailer's way of shaking an industrial sieve. They keep the gold, the easy, high-margin profit, and they let the sand, all those mystery returns, fall through to the liquidators who are willing to dig for it. The pressure to move these bins is constant because of the speed of decay. In this world, an electronic item loses about 1% of its resale value for every day it sits in a warehouse. It's an invisible tax on physical space. Because of that, the retailer isn't looking for the highest possible price for every toaster. They're looking for the fastest way to turn a liability back into cash. By selling these data-backed lottery tickets to the highest bidder, they outsource the headache of inspection to someone else. It's a clean way to clear the floor, but it shifts the entire burden of the undo button onto the buyer. So, what happens when a middleman wins one of these auctions and finally cuts the shrink wrap to see what they've actually bought? When that plastic finally comes off, the item enters what we call second life surgery. The middleman, often a specialized liquidator or a local pallet flipper, is essentially stepping in to do the manual labor that was too expensive for a billion-dollar retailer. This is a fulfillment shift. The item moves from a high-tech, automated hub to a smaller, more focused workspace, where humans actually take the time to look inside the box. They're running a professional thrift store with the efficiency of a small factory, methodically testing power cords, wiping away fingerprints, and doing the basic refurbishing needed to prove the thing still works. Once an item passes this second triage, it's relisted on a discount site or sent to an outlet store, finally closing the loop that started with your phone screen. You might even see those same headphones pop up as a certified refurbished. Bargain a few days later, now wrapped in fresh plastic and ready for a second chance. It's an elegant way to keep the stream of goods moving, but because it relies on a perfectly timed handoff between massive corporations and small-scale liquidators, the whole thing is surprisingly fragile. It works beautifully until it doesn't. And that raises a fairly stressful question. What happens to the rest of the world's logistics when this industrial undo button gets stuck? If you walk into a shipping storefront on a Tuesday afternoon, all you see are some scuffed floors and a few overflowing fabric bins. It looks mundane, almost tedious. But that clutter is the start of a massive industrial traffic jam, just waiting to happen. It's the drowned drain effect. If those returns stop moving for just a few hours, the floor space vanishes. Within a day, the trucks carrying next season's inventory are idling in the parking lot because the loading docks are physically blocked by the things we didn't want. The forward loop can't move because the reverse loop is full.